Right. One of the most important things I wanted to talk about in this introduction module is breathing, because I feel that breathing is not explained enough. Normally they tell you, oh, as you do a technique, breathe out. And that's it, end of explanation. Breathe out as you punch, breathe out as you kick. There's a lot more to it than that. So to start off with, looking at how to breathe, and then we'll look at it, applying it in a while. So the first thing is, we should be breathing with a diaphragm, okay? Now, any type of art which looks at relaxation always looks at diaphragmic breathing. Yoga, Tai Chi, meditation, they all talk about diaphragmic breathing. And for us as martial artists, we need to relax as we move as well. So diaphragmic breathing, like I say, is connected with relaxation. Now, as we get older, we tend to breathe more in the top of the lung. So you see people, but we want to be looking at the diaphragm. The diaphragm is a muscle which is at the bottom of the lung. It's near enough separates the top half of the body, the lung, from the lower part of the torso where all the internal organs are, the rest of the internal organs. Okay, it's a big muscle, goes all the way around, and when you breathe correctly, as you breathe in, the diaphragm comes down, pulls air in. As you breathe out, the diaphragm pushes back up, pushes the air out. Okay, like I say, people as they get older and with a lot of stress stop using the diaphragm and start using their shoulders more for breathing, and it's not healthy. Okay, so first of all, we'll look at how we actually do that diaphragmic breathing. Now, usually the way they teach people, so if you're not familiar with it, or if you teach beginners, this may be a starting place for you. It's just putting your hand on your tummy. As you breathe in, tummy goes out. As you breathe out, tummy goes in. Breathe in, tummy out, breathe out, tummy in. One of the easiest ways to demonstrate that actually is to lie on the floor. And when you're on the floor, you can feel the tummy going in and out quite a lot easier. Okay, so that's a good starting place if you're not familiar with diaphragmic breathing, or if you're teaching beginners who aren't familiar with it. When you do get a bit more used to it, or if you are a little bit more advanced, what I would suggest to you is put your fingers in your solar plexus and press in. Okay, now at the top of the chest we've got our rib cage, which is like an upside down V. We've got strong stomach muscles. Okay, in the middle there, just inside that upside down V, the position we call the solar plexus, that's a weak spot, where if you punch somebody there, you punch directly onto the diaphragm and you affect their breathing. Okay, you really wind them. So that's kind of basic. Most of us should know that. But if you press in there, now push it out. Then let it go back in again. Push it out, let it go back in again. Now try and do that with your breathing. So as you push it out, breathe in. Breathe out, push it in. Breathe out, so breathe in, breathe out. Okay, so you can see it moving in and out there. Okay, breathe in, breathe out. Now, why I like doing it this way is you are actually more directly using the diaphragm muscle. Using a hand on the belly, that's a good way to teach beginners, but you're also engaging your external muscles as well sometimes to push your hand out. Sometimes, like I say, you're using the stomach muscles here, the external muscles. You really want to get the movement coming from that diaphragm. So this is the more powerful way of doing it, particularly as you get more advanced. To push in that diaphragm, push it out, push it in, push it out, push it in. Okay, so you get that control of the diaphragm and the breathing directly from the diaphragm, not relying on the external muscles around the lower torso to assist you with that breathing. Now, this helps on a number of different levels. One is health. Okay, when you breathe to the bottom of the diaphragm, you clear the stale air out from the bottom of the lung. You tend to kind of like get air in your lungs. If you're just breathing out from the shoulders, then you don't necessarily clear out the air at the bottom of the lung. It gets a little bit stale. This kind of diaphragmatic breathing gets all the stale air out, and you breathe deeper into the entire lung. It's a much more healthy way of doing it. Okay, so it's good for your health. It's good for your technique, which we'll come back to in a minute, but it's also good for hiding your intention. Now, what's not a lot of people don't realise, when somebody's about to attack you, normally they will take a breath in first, and they'll breathe in and draw their hand back, and then strike. Okay, so strike very often, particularly by an untrained person, you'll see the chest expand, you'll see these bones, if they're wearing a t-shirt or something, these bones tend to come up, the shoulders tend to come up, and it's a warning sign that the person's about to do something. Now, you may not have actually known that on an intellectual level, but on an instinctive level, if you're faced with somebody and you see them, you know something's coming. Intuitively, instinctively, you know something's coming, so it gives away your intention. Okay? If you can breathe from the diaphragm, whether you're in a guard or whether you're in the fence, we will explain this position in a later module, what we call the fence position, where it's a neutral position where it's just saying, look mate, don't want any troubles, whatever. A guard is a formal fighting guard. This is a more relaxed pre-fight guard, but very, very similar, but it's much more non-aggressive body language. So if you're in that position and you decide for whatever reason, I think I'm going to have to hit this person, I'm trying to calm it down, but he's not being calmed down. Like I said, if I breathe in from the shoulders, you can see it coming. Okay, if I breathe from the diaphragm, okay, now you wouldn't normally breathe that loud, I'm just doing it loud so you can actually know that I'm breathing. But the top half doesn't move. So if I'm preparing to hit, there's my intention is not given away. There's no movement in the shoulders. There's no movement lifting up the shoulders. These bones don't move. There's no kind of giveaway that I'm actually considering hitting a person. Okay, I can be preparing, but I don't give my intention away. And that's another advantage of diaphragmatic breathing. Okay, so health doesn't give away your intention. The other important aspect is that it engages your core muscles. Okay, as you breathe in from the diaphragm pushes out here and it pushes down inside. It engages the core muscles inside, and that is your powerhouse. Now, in Japanese martial arts, they often talk about moving from the hara, the stomach region. In Chinese martial arts, they talk about the dantian, which again is the stomach region. They normally describe it as being like just behind and centered just behind and slightly lower than the navel. Okay, but when you breathe through the diaphragm and you push it forward here and you push down as you breathe in, you engage those core muscles, and it feels almost like a little pressure inside. Not a tension, but a little pressure. It's not the external muscles, it's not your six-pack or one-pack for some of us, but it's not like engaging the external muscles, it's the internal muscles. And when you get the internal muscles engaged, that's when you can really move a lot faster. Okay, so that's your key. It's health, hiding your intention, and it also engages your core muscle for movements, which is very, very important. Okay, so I've been talking about doing this breathing, breathing from the diaphragm, pushing the diaphragm out as you breathe in. The other good thing about pushing that diaphragm out is normally if someone hits you on the solar plexus, it winds you because you strike straight onto the diaphragm and it really knocks all the wind out of you. But if you push the diaphragm out, you can actually take a full power blow to the diaphragm without it winding you. Obviously, you'll still feel the effect of the blow itself, but it's nowhere near as bad. You don't get the winding effect with the diaphragm pushed out in the correct position. Now, the other thing is relax the rest of the body. When people are receiving or about to receive a blow, they automatically tense up. that way you're more likely to get damaged. Bones are more likely to be broken, whatever, okay? It's, if you see like a very, very young child, they fall over, because they haven't got the fear of falling quite so much, they just fall totally relaxed and they don't hurt themselves so much. Adults tense up and we hurt ourselves a lot more, okay? So when someone's sitting here, just try and completely relax. Well, obviously you wouldn't stand there and let someone hit you, so that's a bit of a silly thing to say, but if you are doing this type of exercise, just completely relax, put the diaphragm in the right position, and I'm going to invite Paul to punch me as hard as he can on the solar plexus. So, in your own time, Paul. And again. Thank you. Okay. I mean, you still feel the impact of the blow, but you can see there's no winding, there's no, you know, that like you would normally expect for a blow on the diaphragm or on the solar plexus. So again, that's another benefit of breathing that way. Okay? All right. The next thing we're going to look at is applying the breathing with a technique. We're going to use a step. Okay, so I'll use a stepping punch as an example. So if I'm in my formal position, and as in a previous section, you know, this is the body awareness, the body mechanics stage. Okay? When I step forward, I breathe in. And again, that engages my core muscles to allow me to kind of like move forward. Then when I get to the halfway point, as I step out, I breathe out. Okay? So it's breathe in, breathe out. Okay? Now, I remember when I first started, to be honest, I wasn't sure about that. I just used to breathe in and then breathe out throughout the entire technique. But it's more efficient to break the technique into two, in, out. Okay? Because like I say, that helps to engage your core muscles, it helps you to relax, and because you're bringing your diaphragm down and you're focusing on that part of the body, it helps you to relax your shoulders. Because particularly if you're teaching, you'll find beginners very often as they step through, you know, they're tensing up, they're hunching their shoulders, they're tensing their arms, ready for that, driving that hand forward. Okay? No. If you have the focus on the diaphragm and on the core muscles, it takes some of the focus away from the shoulders and the arms a little bit, so that part stays more relaxed, and then the whole thing can move through much more fluidly. Okay, nice and fluid. Now as you get faster, so you've actually got less time to do that breathing. So your breath should get smaller as you get more efficient at engaging those core muscles. For a beginner, if we, like I say, we look at the stepping punch again, we've got a very big, long technique. Now, you don't really have much chance in a real self-defense situation to, the person's going to see it coming a mile off and, you know, be prepared for it, get out of the way or whatever. So as a technique in itself, to step in and punch somebody, it's not the most efficient. However, it teaches a beginner to coordinate those core muscles with the rest of the technique, like I was talking about in the earlier stage, coordinating everything together. But once we can coordinate that core very quickly, then we can condense the breath. So even if I need to, so we say, do a short punch, maybe just from here, from that distance. Nowhere near as long as a great big stepping punch, but you can hear, okay, because I'm engaging the core, much, much more quickly than I am that way, and I'm taking a smaller breath to do it, because I've gained the efficiency of engaging the core. Now, this is particularly comes on to multiple techniques, like if we look at Sonbonzuki or three-point punching, you've got very little time between the three punches. So if I just demonstrate, okay, I don't have time to, don't have time for it. Okay, so after the first technique, the second two, very, very rapid. So that has to be a very small contraction of the internal muscles. But as you get more advanced, you should be able to kind of engage those core muscles much, much more quickly with a smaller breath to do so. And one of the ways we do that is like you take several snatches of the same breath. Okay, so rather than punch, breathe in again, breathe in again. Okay, you don't have time for that. So it's like one breath that you take 3 snatches at, like. Okay, so obviously not that loud, I'm just doing it loud so you can kind of like understand where the breathing is. So if I do it loud, okay, it should of course be done kind of quietly because you don't require to engage the voice box to make this technique work. Some styles do make a ch sound as they do it, but with respect, that's more for the instructor, so the instructor knows you're breathing at the right place. It's not because you personally need to make that sound to make the technique work. Okay, so if I do it a bit more quietly, okay, you can see 3 nice rapid techniques, the core's engaged with each of them, and it's a small breath that I'm using, particularly on the last 2, to kind of power the last couple of techniques. Okay? The other thing I would like you to notice is that the breath finishes with a technique. Now, in the early days, the Japanese used to teach us that big tension on the end of it. No, it's all the legs tense, the arms tense, the face and neck muscles, everything's tensing up. And it's simply not required. It wasn't the Okinawan way, it's not the Chinese way, it's something the Japanese developed. And there is a line of thought that the main reason why they developed it was for competition, particularly when they started doing kata competitions. They wanted the examiner to know that they was tensing or focusing on the correct places. So to highlight the focus, they started over-tensing. Okay, and it's not just me that says this. This is in even some of the Japanese masters have written about this themselves. It's not required. If you think from the perspective, if I'm punching something or somebody, there's 2 points you really need to think about. There's a point of contact where I actually make contact with the body, and then as I drive in, there's a point of completion. Now I need my power, my generation of power, to be between the point of contact and the point of completion. If I wait till I get to the point of completion and then carry on breathing, carry on tensing up, it's not doing anything. The power goes from the point of contact to the point of completion. Very often the person will move away. If you hit them hard enough, they'll carry on moving. So they've separated from your fist, and there you're standing there going, when they're separated, they're not even there anymore. Okay? It's superfluous. Now, when you look at any other physical activity, they use the power, they use the exhalation, again to engage the core muscles, but they use it for forceful movement. If you take a tennis player, for example, as they hit the ball, they breathe out hard and they go all the way through. A golfer, okay, they exhale as well as they hit the ball, and they don't hit it and tense, so they don't hit the ball and go. Tennis players don't hit the ball and go. Okay, but in martial arts, in the early days, particularly like in styles like Shotokan, the Japanese were teaching us all this big heavy tension on the end. It doesn't serve any purpose. Like I say, very often the person's disengaged anyway. Now, this is why I say the breath finishes with the technique. The breath is to power forceful movement, not to power tension on the end. Okay? You're not looking for tension. You're looking for forceful movement. So, like I say, as you're breathing out, it comes to the point of contact, you breathe out, reach the point of completion, stop breathing. Okay, well, not literally stop breathing altogether, but that exhalation is finished. Now you kind of like maybe breathe in, ready for the next technique. Okay, so I just want to do away with this tension on the end. We don't need the tension. Get rid of the tension. Okay, you only need enough strength to maintain the structure of your body. If you think of a weightlifter, for example, imagine I've got some weights in my hands. Weightlifters, they lift them up, they lock their arms out, and they hold up the weights. Now, when they're pushing the weight up, they'll breathe out. As they come down, sometimes they'll breathe in, but they'll brace themselves when it comes back down again. But when they breathe out, when they actually get to the completion, they lock the joints out. Then they can actually, if they're tired, if they've done about maybe 8 reps or whatever, and they need to take a few breaths before they do the next one, they can take a few breaths there. But why? They're still holding the weight. The reason being is the structure of the body holds the weight. The weight goes into the palm of the hand. It goes down all the correctly aligned bones into the shoulder. If you're lying on a bench, the weight will then go into the bench. If not, it goes down the spine and then down your legs. But the skeletal structure holds the weight. And you just need enough muscular tension or much muscular strength to hold the body structure in place, to hold the weight so that the skeletal structure stays in place. Once you break the skeletal structure, then you need the muscular strength to control the weight, either be it down or up, whichever way the weight's going. The muscular exertion, or main muscular exertion, is in controlling it, moving it up or down. Once it's locked out, like I say, you don't need nearly as much muscular tension. That's when you take a break. That's when you just need enough to control the alignment of your bones. And it's the same way when you punch something or strike somebody. After you made the point of contact, you only need enough strength to keep your alignment in place. The alignment doesn't buckle, okay? Nothing buckles when you hit. So that's all the strength you need from the point of contact through to the point of completion, okay? Only enough strength to maintain the structure, not all this tension afterwards. That tension can go. It doesn't serve you any purpose at all. In fact, it's counterproductive, okay, for a number of reasons. When you tense, you actually tend to pull back a little bit into your own body. So instead of all the power going out, you're actually putting some of the power back into yourself by tensing, okay? Tension tends to, muscles tighten, it closes things up and pulls things back towards you, okay? So it doesn't help.